Hello everyone, my name is Fariya Riyaz and I am an architecture student at School of Architecture, Kashmir. I am one of the authors for this research paper and architect Taha Masoodi is the co-author who is one of the faculty members at School of Architecture, Kashmir. The topic we are going to explore today is regenerative architecture as an effective solution for ecological regeneration of dense urban core, which is a case of downtown Srinagar. The structure of research paper goes as: first we will study the background study for the research paper, which will include the first chapter, that is Anthropocene. Then we will discuss the factors impacting ecological systems and the main two factors being urbanization and economic growth. Then we'll discuss the regenerative architecture and its need for ecology, which will cover the difference between sustainable and regenerative architecture. And then we will study about the case of SHEHRE KHAS Srinagar, and we will study it in terms of its spatial study, and we will take up the case of Nalamar. Then in the fifth chapter we will discuss regeneration of SHEHRE KHAS Srinagar, and finally we will try to conclude. So as to understand the negative impact that humans have created on Earth in the previous few decades, we may understand the epoch which is known as Anthropocene. So Anthropocene is defined as a geological time period that is used to describe the most recent period in Earth's history, when human activities started to greatly impact planet's climate and ecosystem. So Anthropocene is considered as an epoch scale boundary that has crossed within last two centuries, and the primary reason being human activities. There has been changes in both biological and non-biological components of the earth during this epoch, and it is estimated that human activities have destroyed almost 83% of the mammals, half of the species of plants, and 30% of resources that are known. Also, according to fifth assessment report of Intergovernmental Report on Climate Change, anthropogenic activities are the main cause of increase in greenhouse gases. And if we talk in terms of biodiversity loss, it is said that humans have eradicated almost 60% of Earth's wildlife. And if we talk in terms of biodiversity loss, it is said that almost 60% of Earth's wildlife has been eradicated in less than 50 years only due to human activities. If humans continue working on planet in the same manner, it is very near that when Earth will be short of resources and extinction of life on Earth may happen. Now, if we try to understand some of the basic factors that have impacted ecological system, they may include urbanization and the economic growth. If we talk about urbanization, it is a global process and is defined as a process of converting underdeveloped land into cities by doing construction to meet the problems of population growth. So it is also characterized with the urban expansion and economic development, and which has resulted in the reduction of ecological land and green cover. Here is a map which shows a comparison between the urban built up in Kashmir during 2005 and 2015. Now we have a table that shows us the variation in urban built up in different districts of Kashmir during 2005 and 2015. So if we analyze the total change in the area in all of the districts, we can see that there has been an overall increase in the urban built up. So which indicates that there might have been decrease in the ecological land and decrease in the green cover, which in turn has impacted the ecological systems of the area. Now, if we analyze the map and the table that shows us the change in the overall forest cover, we can say that there has been an overall decrease in the forest cover, which means that there has been again the deterioration in the environment, and which has impacted the ecological system of the area. Now, another factor that can impact the ecological systems is the economic growth. So, economic growth is defined as the increase in the real output or real GDP. We can say that economic development may affect the environmental quality, because with increase in the economic development, there is an increased level of resource utilization that produces more waste, and thus economic activities may affect the environmental quality. But there may be an exception. With rising economy, people may prefer more to spend money on resources for protecting the environment and to mitigate the harmful effects of pollution. Thus, economic growth may lead to an improved technology and can enable implementations with less pollution, and this may be explained through Kuznets curve as shown in the figure. Now we may explain regenerative architecture and its need for ecology. The term regenerative comprises of restoration, renewal or revitalization, and regenerative architecture is defined as an architecture that can revitalize its own sources of energy and materials, and it uses a whole system altogether to create an efficient system that may integrate the needs of society with ecological inclusivity. Thus, a regenerative design can also be termed as an ecological design, and it may be defined as the need of the present and future, so as to revitalize the resources that man has exhausted. Now, oftentimes we may confuse sustainable design with regenerative design. Here we will explore what actually the differences are. If we consider sustainable design, its goal is to meet the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And if we consider regenerative architecture, it aims to develop restorative systems that are more dynamic and emergent and that actually evolve with nature. Sustainable design aims to have a zero impact on environment, while regenerative design has a net positive impact on environment. Sustainable design aims to obtain the resources as needed by buildings through renewable energy sources, while regenerative design aims to generate the amount of energy that is needed and a surplus value that can revitalize the resources and the overall ecosystem. So, there is this concept of co-evolution of design with nature that makes regenerative design different from that of sustainable design. Now, if we take up the case of SHEHRE KHAS Srinagar, the downtown area or SHEHRE KHAS is considered to be the hub of most crafts of the region, and SHEHRE KHAS is considered to be as the largest and most densely populated area of the city. And one of the greatest charms of SHEHRE KHAS used to be river Jhelum that cuts through the city and was used as the basic means of transportation along with other water bodies. And most of the businesses that once functioned through the edge of the river had now moved towards the interiors of the city, reducing the footfall of the river. And this has mainly caused due to the advent of motor transport in Srinagar, which has actually made this river lost its charm. Now the ghats are becoming dumping areas and the river transport coming to a halt, and it has severely affected the craft industry and the riverine edge, and in turn the living conditions in the area. And the people are now migrating towards the civil line areas and the newer parts of the city, and older parts are being demolished to pave way for newer ones. Now, for the better livability of an area, there are indicators of functional dimension which may depend upon the good provision and location of some of the important and essential services. But due to the densification of SHEHRE KHAS and lack of some services and some essential services has led the migration of people from downtown to upper town. Otherwise, some of the locally distinctive buildings that used to impart or still impart the character to the site included the tomb of Zainul Abidin's mother, the Khankai Mola, the Jamia Masjid, and the shops on the ground and the residents at the first floors used to define the continuity and enclosures at the site. Now, if we consider the case of Nalamar, it was a canal that was dug by Badshah to regulate the water levels and water transportation. But it also lost its glory due to some of the factors which may include urbanization of Srinagar, due to which cities started to expand that led to the shifting of commercial centers from downtown to civil lines, and which ultimately led this route to lose its significance, thus affecting the socio-economic character of downtown. Also, the arrival of motor transport was a major reason for the waterways to lose their relevance. Also, due to improper sewerage system, due to urban expansion, there was a demand of housing which led to the use of Malyari land, that was a waste land, as sites of building construction. Thus, waste was dumped into canal and making it a menace for people. And ultimately, due to the loss of the significance of this canal, it was converted into a land, unfortunately, and presently Nalamar acts as a motorized road that connects different areas of downtown Srinagar. But it has led to the choking of Brari Number Lagoon and has affected the entire water system of the Srinagar city, and thus acting as an ecological disaster. Now, according to Lefebvre's spatial triad, every space can be looked at from three perspectives. One is the representational space, which is the one the developer or client has perceived. Two is the representation of space, that is what we see in models or maps. Third and the last one is the practice, that is how a space is being used or the urban reality. And for a successful place, the representational and the representation of the space shall overlap, and only then will the layer of practice be in tune with what has been perceived. Now, for the regeneration of SHEHRE KHAS Srinagar. SHEHRE KHAS is not only a heritage core, but it is also considered as an important site for some of the important religious places, craft clusters and tourist hotspots. And for the regeneration of SHEHRE KHAS, community participation is one of the important factors for its regeneration and for a successful approach. Now, for the conclusion, we may say that the concepts of co-evolution, coexistence, adaptability, or emergence with nature pave a way for regenerative design strategies. And regenerative design believes in the idea of built as a part of nature rather than nature as a part of built. And the perpetual and functional aspects of livability contain the visual and physical accessibility, connectivity, proximity, safety, and diversity. And one of the important factors for a successful regeneration of a space is its community participation. And the policies and strategies that can bridge the gap between the different communities and that may eventually could lead to a prosperous society are the need of an hour. And in case of Kashmir, the beautification of waterfronts along River Jhelum is a must-do across Srinagar if there is to be an active, robust river transport mechanism that can reduce travel distance, save time, and reduce shipment costs.